Hey everyone, Phobos here, coming at you with a last Epoch build guide. So this is going to be for the guide slash demonstration. The Glacier Sorceress, and first I'll go into the tree and show you what how the glacier is distributed. So you obviously have to put 2 in here to unlock these other nodes. If you're struggling on mana, this is actually a pretty good node to get because 16% mana efficiency on a spell that costs like 50 some mana is no joke. In terms of mandatory points, you're going to want to come down to Resplendent Frost here, and then since you already have 2 points in here, it's only 1 point to go to Critical Rejuvenation. And some people may go to Cold Victory. I find you typically don't need it. Critical Rejuvenation is more than fine, and the thing is, you're not even going to notice this a lot during Monolith and maybe like the story of the game if you're playing through the story with Glacier, or even early arena waves, to be honest. But once you get to like later arena waves, you're gonna notice it a lot because the packs get huge and you can kind of just like throw a Glacier out with the anticipation of your mana just popping back. You'll see that in the video here for a second. I'm going to do a quick demonstration. In terms of the other damage nodes, I typically get Mordant in Spain just because it's such an insane damage increase against bosses and stuff like that. And then I just fill out for the large one and the moderate hit on Glacier, and then I leave the smaller one. So that's how I do the tree there. I use Fire Shield. Fire Shield is just basically to get a little bit more cold damage, as well as get more elemental protections. It gives 100 base and 125 from this node, which is nice. I like to take the Circle of Flames, not because it really does anything, but more just so that I know when the shield is on me. Because if you don't take that, you have a shield that looks the same as your Fire Ward. Because they haven't... the game is still in beta, so a lot of the graphic stuff isn't updated yet. So you can't really differentiate them in any meaningful way when you don't have Circle of Flames. And you can make the area bigger if you want. This can be somewhat helpful, especially in cases where you're dealing with mobs that regenerate if you haven't hit them, and you maybe need to like charge your mana up with focus or something like that. So like you'll dump all your mana and you're still in range of the mob with your circle around you hitting them while you're charging up with focus. And I'll show you what that circle looks like. It's pretty big. Unfortunately, it does very little damage. Looks like a Righteous Fire from PoE. Yeah, it's mostly just for the added damage it gives to your Glacier. And do this node and the protections, like I said. Teleport, just movement skill. I have it built to focus on the stat buffs and the mirror images. I've noticed the mirror images are actually really powerful. They tank for you quite well. Even if they like die quickly, it's just the fact that they were there to begin with in the first place. A lot of times you just need that like split second diversion, and that gives you enough time to get in position to do damage to mobs. It's particularly helpful against range mobs, because it can be annoying in this game when you're trying to fight stuff in the melee and the range mob is just tunneling on you, or kind of like vice versa if you're trying to get to the range mobs and you have the melee, or some things that are like in melee but they can hit at range, you know what I mean? So I find the images to be super good. You just have to be a little bit careful because there's some things that'll target the images and then could go on and pierce through to you. So you just have to be cognizant of that and play around it. Down here, I get the out-of-body node just to convert percentage of health into ward. Right now, I don't have too much health. It's not doing like a ton for me, but there's not a ton of other insane nodes for this, really. So, yeah. Let's go to focus. Focus is how I get my mana back. Basically, I build it so that when I'm in the focus state, I have Desperate Meditation. I think this is like mandatory. This makes it so that when you're lower on mana, it comes back faster, which is really important when you have a high mana pool. And then other than that, I'm super tanky. make sure I get the protections and stuff like that. Yeah, and just get really tanky when I'm in there. Sometimes you can even use this, like if your fire ward is down, which is like your main protection ability, and you know you're gonna get hit by something crazy, you just throw on focus, because if you watch the protections go up a lot when you start to focus, see? And then if I put they go up an insane amount. Then last thing is fire ward. Now this can be built a couple different ways. Since I'm not doing like a full-on ward build right now, which is technically the meta for Glacier, what a lot of people do is they just go full into ward, and they do that with a chest that it's called Sanguine. I can basically show it to you here. If I can find it. So it's this, and it converts, you lose 20% of your current health per second, gain 20% of your missing health as ward. So basically they'll be on kind of like low life, and they'll be gaining all that missing health as wards. They basically get a high health pool in order to sacrifice it to be generating a lot of ward. Then they just use ward generating things on the passive tree, as well as fire flame ward actually gives you a lot of ward, especially if you go like to here, where like it doubles the ward it would give, but it generates it over its full duration instead of just in the initial burst at the start. So there's a lot of ways you can like max out the ward, and that's one thing. Some people will have like 2.5 to 5k ward with this build, and they just run very little protections. But we're doing it in a way where we focus more on the protections, and it's more just because of how the gear that dropped was afforded to us. I think the optimal way might be the other way, and I'm going to try a couple other ways, and I'll maybe make an update video. But I just wanted to get this out there because it's like my first build ever doing this game, and it's been pretty successful, even though the defenses aren't maybe super proper, right? So how we're focusing on doing the fire ward is we make it so that it's like a defensive cooldown that makes you like invincible. He has 1,000 elemental protections across the board, which is insane. We have the duration on it extended so that we have that buff for longer. We have a huge ward shield when we put it on, and we have 30% reduced damage just flat off the top. And that makes you like super strong. It's like kind of like a little can't kill me button. You just pop it and you're super tanky. And that's how we basically play around it in this build. Now for the tree, don't take this, because that's what I'll say. Basically what happens is any spell can trigger that, even if it's not a damaging spell, so it gets wasted a lot. Get ward retention, not as important on this particular variant, but still pretty good because you end up with a little bit of ward. Just get some general damage, try and get intellect and protection so you can. Get the crit, because I'm crit. Pretty much everything you would suspect here. I invest into here just to get the a little bit of cold leech, and the chill is rather nice for sure. Afterglow is super good when using Glacier because it has a high mana cost. Definitely want the crit multi here. It's only 1 point to get into this node, so it's super worth. You definitely want Arcane Insight, enough points to keep it up all the time, but it gives you intelligence as well. Intelligence is super good, so never a problem getting that. You would definitely want Archmage and at least 200 mana, and definitely want Elemental Ascendance. Increases your protections by 40%, which is insane. And you definitely want Recollection for the cooldown recovery speed. It's really, really good. Now, in terms of the idols, I basically just run all cold damage at 300 mana idols, and it's pretty damn strong. Yeah, obviously these are going to be based on your needs. I would try to run one with 3-second stun immunity after using teleport. It's really helpful. And yeah, now for the gear. So I'm going one hand offhand and stack crit and crit multi. I believe it's been told to me that once you're over like 470% added damage, so if you go into the tab here, 618% cold damage. Once you're over 470%, you want to stack multi. For this, you always want to use the multi base because the other ones are dog shit anyways. And yeah, basically you just have to, you want to make sure you get the glancing blow maxed out, because glancing blow is 50% reduced damage, so you want 100% glancing blow. You can achieve that by glancing blow on 4 pieces, which we use the ring, 7%, 5%, 6%, 7%. And that's like, what that does is it makes, it's basically like if there's 4 items with glancing blow, right, then that becomes 28 on this, 28 on this, 20 on this, so forth, you know what I mean? Other than that, I always like to get this armor and protections. I'm trying to get it on belt as well now. I don't have it on belt, but you can get it on like chest and belt, and I think maybe helm and neck, but we're using those with uniques, so I always try and get that. And you get a decent amount of elemental resists from the teleport and the fire shield, so I do like to focus on necrotic, because when I use this amulet, all of my void gets taken as fire, so I don't have to worry about that as much. And poison is not really as much of a concern for this build as you would otherwise think. It's actually, a lot of it is like dot based, and you can avoid it easily in my opinion. So I don't really focus too much on poison, although I do have this helm, which 21% of poison damage taken is physical. Roll is kind of low, but I like it because it has a 38% necrotic taken as fire. Necrotic is like a big problem in general, I would say, for this build and in general. So it's good that you can get some of that necrotic damage taken as fire. For the weapon, basically just crit multi cold. And now I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay. So how this works is we always want to have our fire shield active, and we always want to have like recently teleported, basically. And the idea, I'll show you. So start the wave. Oh, I'm actually going to move my arena. Okay. So you want to use the fire shield as like a defensive bubble, kind of. Right, so we put it on and then we start attacking. And you have like a good 4 seconds or so once you get it on. Typically, don't really like using it when you don't need to use it. So you don't want to just like pop it all the time in this build. That's actually for the other build where you want to gain ward with it, right? Then you want to pop it all the time because you want to be consistently gaining ward. But in this build, it's kind of like the opposite. It's like you want to like not use it. Wow, that was 1 bolt from that thing. I didn't think it would do that much damage, but it's pretty insane on this wave. Okay. So yeah, basically it's going to be a pattern of darting in and out. And for these types of mobs that are like big and slow, you can use them to like recover your mana in between waves. You don't, like, the next wave isn't going to come until like you kill them, right? So don't feel like you have to kill them quickly or anything like that.
I cannot do that.
As you can see, we're not really using our
I cannot.
fire ward here. We're just kind of kiting with Glacier, letting the mirror images tank. There's nothing really that threatening, so we're not overreacting or anything like that. Let's go into the next wave.
I am not a man of many pockets.
Not really gonna be...
I cannot
Kiting. Used it like a bit reactively there. We kind of seen that we were going to take damage with the way those are going to shoot at us, so we just popped it. Stop the damage real quick. Now we're back to normal, just kiting. Kiting, but just attacking at range. Big things like the scorpions you typically don't need to pop it for. Got a little scared because those things did a lot of damage to us. And super easy to deal with those without doing anything crazy. Trying to get a good good one. We have to wait on the cooldown. These guys do a lot of physical, so we're just gonna pop the shield and go in on them there. They fling axes. They can be very dangerous. You'll get to know as you play more of the game which mob types are dangerous, and like basically it becomes like a dance where you kind of like dart in and out, and depending on what you have to kill and how dangerous it is, you'll use your shield at that time to go in and do that. Like, see, this is really bad. Archer's very scary, so we waited and we tried to like bait. I was running away from them, so they just kept missing me, and then as soon as we got the fire shield back, we ran in and did damage. I was just kiting them out there until we get the fire shield back. And those plants super easy to deal with, so we can go back to normal kiting. And it's pretty simple. As things get more HP, obviously it gets a little trickier because it takes more to kill the mobs, right? But other than that, this is the gist of the build. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, this is my first build. I'm actually super happy it was kind of so successful. Learned a lot playing this build, and I've had it for a while, kind of going back to it now. I'm trying to farm gear for my other guy, which is going to be a shaman. But yeah, like we had this up and running in like, I don't know, probably like 3rd or 4th day easily, and it just crushes. So super happy with the skill and the class. Probably gonna rebuild it a little bit later, and I think since I know that the energy shield or the ward version is already good, I think I'm gonna try doing a raw health version where I stack health with not many protections, and then use this chest that gives me a lot of leech on spell hit. So I'll be trying that most likely. Once I can get the gear for it, but it's going to take me a little bit probably to farm for the gear, because it's like a completely different set of gear. When you try and do like builds based on different types of protections and stuff like that, the gear changes substantially. So I think as soon as I finish this wave, I'm going to end the video. See, we just popped our ward to go in there, popped our fire ward. These guys, I tend to like to stay close to them actually, because they don't use their ranged ability as much. You can do damage to them while you're close much more easily. A lot of poison spiders there, so we're gonna charge up, put our thing in, and just go to town. Wow, they still did a lot of damage, even though we had our shield up for a bit. And that's pretty much the build. So thank you guys again. Like, subscribe if you want, and talk to you later.